Has Blackhawks general manager Kyle Davidson fleeced the Canucks once again?
You're Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Blackhawks fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As usual, just a reminder to everyone watching on YouTube right now to please help me out by hitting that like button. Go and comment down below as well as to your reaction to the trade that the Blackhawks made late last night with the Vancouver Canucks, which I'll be getting into here in just a moment. And be sure you're subscribed to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube as well. All of that stuff that I just rattled off is 100% free, won't cost you anything, and is the best way to go and show some support. I'm currently on the climb to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube right now, and I've been getting a bunch of new viewers over the last couple of weeks. With this being such a crucial point in the summer for the Chicago Blackhawks, we're now just over 24 hours removed from the NHL Draft getting underway. Free agency is also right around the corner, so please go and do me a favor if you haven't already. Go and subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. It's not going to cost you anything, and it really does help me out tremendously. It makes all my hard work worth it, and also that way you won't miss out on any of the Blackhawks NHL Draft and free agency coverage that I'll be posting here on the channel. Last but certainly not least, gotta let you all know today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Go and download the Game Time app right now, and when you do, use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps after you create an account to get $20 off to the sporting events, concerts, or theater events near you. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you all for joining me on another episode of Locked On Blackhawks, your one-stop shop for all things Chicago Blackhawks. Another spicy episode in store for all of you out there today. As I referenced off the top, we're now just over 24 hours removed from day one of the 2024 NHL Draft at the Sphere in Las Vegas. I'm starting to get those butterflies in my stomach, Blackhawks fans. So excited to see how things are going to shake out. And oh yeah, we got a trade to dissect as well here on today's episode. And of course, last night after I got home from work and recorded the episode to kind of get me all caught up for the week, I apologize to all the viewers and listeners out there for being a little bit off schedule. I'm now back on track here today. But after I recorded the episode last night that I posted earlier this morning, I finally had some free time, and it was nice outside, not scorching hot, for the first time in a couple of days. So me and my brother went to a local golf center and hit a couple buckets of balls for, I don't know, an hour, not even an hour and a half. I put my phone down for like 45 minutes. And of course, when I come back and check it, the Blackhawks made a trade. It's like, of course that happens. But fortunately, I wasn't, earliest to report it, but it actually kind of took a couple hours for the trade to get finalized because we had to wait for a no movement clause to get waived. It finally did, and then the trade got announced. The Blackhawks acquired forward Ilya Mikheyev, the rights to unrestricted free agent forward Sam Lafferty. Remember him, Blackhawks fans, as well as a 2027 second-round pick, with the Vancouver Canucks retaining 15% of Ilya Mikheyev's current contract in exchange for a 2027 fourth-round pick. Yep, that's it. That's all it costs. General manager Kyle Davidson has done it once again. And of course, the last time that the Blackhawks were on the other end of a cap dump from the Vancouver Canucks worked out pretty well. The player that they got in that deal the last time these two teams were involved in a trade was Jason Dickinson, who's turned into a rather nice player here over his 2 seasons with the Blackhawks organization, more specifically this past year, in which he truly was one of the better defensive forwards in the entire league. Also posted a career-high 20 goals, became the certified goal scorer, baby. And oh yeah, the Blackhawks also got a second-round pick in that deal, which they just used recently to move up from number 20 to number 18 in the first round of this year's draft, and number 54 to number 50 in the second round. So that trade worked out pretty well. Kyle Davidson and all of us Blackhawks fans are hoping it's going to go the same way with this deal here. As far as breaking down the trade pieces, Ilya Mikheyev, of course, is the more notable one. The 6'3", 195-pound winger is currently 29 years old. He will be turning 30, though, prior to the start of this upcoming season in October. And he's coming off a year in which he tallied 31 points, 11 goals, and 20 assists in 78 games for the Vancouver Canucks, which was his fifth NHL campaign in his second season in Vancouver, and was kind of laughed out of there a little bit due to his lack of a finishing touch this past season. Wasn't able to convert on a lot of his prime scoring chances, and there were a lot of comments from Vancouver fans kind of waving goodbye, if you will, to Mikheyev after a not so successful final season in his tenure there. However, when you kind of dive into some of the deeper numbers, he shot 7.5% with the Canucks last year. He actually shot exactly 14.3% in each of the two seasons prior. And he did have 28 points, 13 goals, and 15 assists in 46 games during his first year with Vancouver that unfortunately got shortened due to a knee injury. And he also posted 21 goals and 11 assists for a career best 32 points the year prior in his final season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So despite a lackluster last year with Vancouver and concerns of a knee injury, I do think there are some bounce back capabilities here for Ilya Mikheyev. The problem with him in Vancouver was that injury and his cap hit. He still has 2 years left on his current deal. After the 15% retain, though, it's going to come down to $4.03 million for the Blackhawks. And again, that's a deal that Kyle Davidson is willing to take on. Is Ilya Mikheyev making a little bit too much money? Yes, but it's only for 2 years. So Kyle Davidson is willing to take that on. Again, just another similar contract that we've seen. And I think that's showing us the path that Davidson is going to want to stay on if he does give out any bigger tickets in free agency this year. It's going to come at a short-term price. But for what Mikheyev brings to the table, I mean, he's got good speed. He's got good goal-scoring abilities. He's a good defensive forward as well. I wouldn't say he's as solid defensively as Jason Dickinson is, but I also think he's more capable on the offensive side of things and has better speed. And even though Dickinson did pot 20 this past year, I think Mikheyev is the more consistent goal scorer. So kind of honestly, they're a little bit in similar situations. Dickinson to when he got traded to the Blackhawks to Mikheyev right here, right now. But I think this is going to be a bottom six piece that'll provide some goal scoring, provide some speed, and also be good on the defensive side of things, which, you know, the Blackhawks need to get better in both of those areas. Mikheyev isn't going to be like the guy that'll get them over the hump offensively, but he's someone who can be capable in the bottom six, and the Blackhawks need more of that. And speaking of capable in the bottom six, you can basically say the same thing about Sam Lafferty. We're all pretty familiar with his game. He's not too far removed from his first tenure here with the Blackhawks. For those who may have forgotten, though, 6'1", 200-pound forward, can play both the center and the wing position. In his past season, his first with the Vancouver Canucks, he tallied 24 points, 13 goals, and 11 assists in 79 games. Only had 6 points in 19 games with Toronto after he got traded there from the Blackhawks. And in his first stint in Chicago, he racked up 32 points, 15 goals, 17 assists in 97 combined games from 2021 to 2023. But he's another guy who can provide some good speed in the bottom six. He's a lot more physical than Ilya Mikheyev is, but can be serviceable on the penalty kill as well. And if you remember correctly, Sam Lafferty created a ton of scoring chances for himself. He just kind of lacked that finishing touch. Now, that's been a knack of his for quite some time, and I don't know if he's ever going to find that, but just his speed and offensive capabilities. He's not someone who's going to put up crazy numbers, but again, he's capable, and the Blackhawks need more help in the bottom six. He also provides good hustle, good energy, a well-liked teammate, a guy who just gives his all each and every shift. And those are the guys us Blackhawks fans usually come to love. So I think it's a no-brainer to bring back Sam Lafferty. I do want to point out, though, that he is an unrestricted free agent, could hit the market on July 1st. However, according to reports, the Blackhawks fully plan on attempting to sign Sam Lafferty. You would like to think that he would like to come back here, right? And he's coming off a deal in which he was signed for $1.15 million over a 2-year stretch. Kyle Davidson in a position to probably give him right around $2 million if he's willing to take a 1-year deal. I think KD would like 1 year if, Mikheyev still is on a 2-year contract, but, Lafferty as a UFA might push back for 2 years. We'll see what happens there. But again, Kyle Davidson can certainly give Sam Lafferty a raise to have him stick around here in Chicago. I expect a deal to get done. It feels like a natural relationship between the two sides. And then, the Blackhawks also get a second-round pick in 2027. Looking at their outlook with draft capital, they have 2 second-round picks this year, 2 more seconds in 2025, 3 second-round picks in 2026, and now 2 in 2027. Just more draft capital added, and also those could be pieces when the Blackhawks start to get better that they could use as trade chips around the deadline. So this is a no-brainer win for Kyle Davidson. Taking advantage of another team that's in a tough spot financially. That's kind of been Kyle Davidson's narrative as a general manager since taking over. I have no complaints whatsoever about this deal. I think the Blackhawks got more serviceable players in their bottom 6. They rounded out their roster to give them some better depth. And Mikheyev and Lafferty both play with speed. They're both responsible defensively. They'll sure up things on the defensive side. Maybe they're not game breakers offensively, but they're still better than what the Blackhawks have had the last couple of years. But I do want to point out, you have to wonder how this could also impact the Blackhawks free agency plans now. And funny enough, the episode that I last posted, I went through an outlook of the Hawks restricted and unrestricted free agents. Well, this trade might have completely shaken up their plans. You have to wonder how this impacts, first off, the Blackhawks pending restricted free agents that they have. Colin Blackwell, the UFAs are a little bit more clear-cut. As I mentioned yesterday, I think Colin Blackwell could have been the only guy on the fence, but now because of them bringing in 2 more bottom 6 guys, I think he's likely gone for sure at this point in time. I just don't see a spot really for Mackenzie Entwistle, and maybe even Taylor Radish as well could possibly be gone. Someone who I talked about yesterday, I think is worthy of a contract despite his struggles last year. I think the Hawks are in a spot where they could afford to give him one final opportunity, but because of adding Sam Lafferty and Ilya Mikheyev, I don't know if there's going to be room. Spoiler alert, on tomorrow's episode, I am now going to go through a little bit of a preview of the Blackhawks forward group to see who they still could be trying to add in free agency on Monday, what the roster kind of looks like at this point, and how many open spots are even available at this point in time. The qualifying offers for RFAs have to be in by June 30th, so we'll know by Sunday, but I'm going to go through a little bit of a preview to kind of get you all ready for what could come on Sunday on tomorrow's episode. So yet another reason to go and subscribe to the channel. But an interesting move made by the Chicago Blackhawks. I think a no-brainer for them to accept from Kyle Davidson and the organization's perspective. But go and give me your reaction to this trade down in the comment section down below. You like the deal? I don't see how anyone could really have a problem with it. Going to be fun to see how Ilya Mikheyev and Sam Lafferty, hopefully he does get re-signed. Again, I expect it to happen. How they fare in this upcoming season as new pieces of the Blackhawks forward group. But there's my recap of the trade that went down last night between the Hawks and the Canucks. Coming up in just a moment, I'll be getting into my full first round 2024 NHL Mock Draft. But first, I got to talk to you all real quick about Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to the next ball game that you want to attend. And I'm here happy to announce that Game Time is now an official authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets both faster and easier. Plus, prices on Game Time actually go down the closer that it gets to the first pitch. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time helps take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And I personally have used Game Time for probably around a decade now. I know most of you have heard me give the spiel time and time again, but it's really not even part of this ad read. I was using Game Time well before I was even doing the show, when I was going down to the United Center with my boys back in the Hawks heyday, or going to see the Cubbies back in their heyday as well. And I still use it here today, even when I'm traveling in another city. When I was in Las Vegas in the fall, I used it to go see a concert with one of my buddies. You can use it to go and check out a comedy event. I highly recommend you all go and download the Game Time app right now. And when you do, create an account and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps to get $20 off with your first purchase. Yes, you heard me right. You can get $20 off to go and check out Wrigley Field and the Cubbies this summer. All you got to do, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL in all caps. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Game Time. Segment 2 on the show, I've gone over Corey Pronman, Chris Peters, McKean's Hockey, and Scott Wheeler's mock drafts. I've also given out my top 30 rankings. But today, without any further ado, it's finally time to get into my very own full first round mock ahead of the 2024 NHL draft. I'm so excited for things to get going tomorrow. As I mentioned, starting to get those butterflies and those little tingles over my stomach, keeping my fingers crossed that the Blackhawks are going to go with Ivan Demidov. And quite honestly, Blackhawks fans, what became really apparent to me is when going through this, I think I have to make 2 mocks because I am someone who's been pulling for Ivan Demidov basically this entire time, right? I know it's kind of become a trend on Blackhawks Twitter. I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I feel like I was one of the first guys that was shouting out Ivan Demidov. And I think a reason it kind of blew up was because of all of you great fans out there who tune into this show. I think a lot of us feel the same way. Demidov has the highest ceiling. The Blackhawks can swing upside here. He had a great first impression in Florida a couple of weeks ago. He's thick. He's bigger than he looks, in great shape. No real concerns about coming over to North America from what it seems, even though he didn't publicly state it. That's because it wouldn't really do him any favors with his KHL team next year. And his agent, Dan Milstein, also, who, by the way, is the same agent of Ilya Mikheyev, I thought I would reference. Doesn't hurt that the Blackhawks just got Mikheyev as well. Dan Milstein has made it pretty clear that there's not going to be any problems there. We just saw Matvei Michkov, who was having these same questions around him before last year's first round. He's already coming over to North America now. I'm keeping my hopes that Ivan Demidov is going number 2. However, FanDuel certainly doesn't agree. I haven't checked here today, but last time when I went through the odds on yesterday's show, Demidov was listed at plus 210. Well, Levshinov was listed as the minus 350 favorite, which I didn't love to see. However, what I'm getting to is what's become abundantly clear as a Demidov truther. I'm going to have to make 2 mock drafts for you all because one of them is going to be with the Blackhawks taking Demidov, and then one is going to be with them taking Levshinov. And the reason I'm doing this is because I think I knew this the entire time, but I really didn't understand how much what the Blackhawks do at number 2 is going to dictate, particularly what's going to happen in the top 10 or the top 12 of this year's draft. That pick alone could really, really change something. So I think I'm going to go through 2 mock drafts here. One today with the Blackhawks, spoiler alert, taking Ivan Demidov, and then one tomorrow ahead of the NHL draft. Be sure to stay tuned for that bright and early with them taking Artem Levshinov. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. I'm rambling on and on here as I usually do. I apologize for that. First overall, in my first full round mock draft to the San Jose Sharks, Macklin Celebrini. No surprise there. I already gave out the spoiler alert. Second overall, fingers crossed, the Blackhawks take Ivan Demidov, skilled winger out of Russia. Please, 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 please. If the Hawks do take Demidov second overall, I think the Anaheim Ducks sounds like they're wanting to go defenseman at this point in time. I firmly believe they're going to take Artem Levshinov. Fourth overall, now this becomes a conversation for the Columbus Blue Jackets because it felt like they were either going to go Caden Lindstrom or Ivan Demidov. If Levshinov was off the board at number 2, I think they're still going to stay true and going to select Caden Lindstrom at number 4. I think that pick makes a lot of sense. Number 5 for Montreal is really up in the air if both Lindstrom and Demidov are off the board. Those were 2 guys that a lot of scouts and analysts are expecting them to circle. I'm going to go with the guy whose stock has been rising maybe more than anyone's over the last month or 2. I think the Canadians, they like to shake up the draft. If it goes in this order in the top 4 at number 5, I think they take Beckett Seneca. At number 6, the Utah hockey franchise. Really torn here with this pick. I've mentioned a guy who I think is going 6th or 8th. Ultimately, because of his size, I think they go with Sam Dickinson at number 6, which could be a mistake. I think Dickinson is going to be a great player, but passing on Zeev Buium is questionable. I just think Dickinson's size and his defensive sturdiness ultimately leads Utah in that direction. I believe they want to go defenseman there. For Ottawa at 7, it feels like they could go a plethora of different ways. Ultimately, though, I think Zane Parekh makes a lot of sense along with Jake Sanderson as their long-term top defensive pairing, even though that may not be the most secure defensive 1-2 combo. and the Senators certainly need to get better on the defensive side of things. I really could see Ottawa swinging upside here with Zeev Buium if they wind up sticking with this pick. At number 8, the Seattle Kraken, I do think they wind up taking Zeev Buium. I think they're going to go with Buium or Dickinson, depending on who's available there, assuming they both are. At number 9, the Calgary Flames are going to have a curious question on their hand if Tija Ginla is there. I ultimately don't expect this organization to pass on him. I think they select Tej at number 9. Number 10 is going to be really curious because there's a guy that I love who a lot of people think is falling available for New Jersey at number 10. And there's some rumors that they could trade out of this pick as well if they keep it. I think they're in a spot to swing upside at the forward spot. I know they're undersized there a little bit. Berkeley Catton, though, I think is just too high of a prospect for them to ultimately pass up. Number 11 belonged to the Buffalo Sabres until about 30 minutes before me recording this. They just traded it to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for the 14th and 42nd overall selections in this year's draft. And I know a lot of Blackhawks fans are probably wondering, wait, why didn't the Blackhawks trade up to 11? You got to think GMKD at least kicked the tires on this. And you got to wonder if Buffalo was wanting number 34 in exchange, and that might have been too high for KD to give up. And maybe his counteroffer was number 50, and that might not have been good enough for Buffalo to accept, since we get a little bit of an inside picture with them accepting 42nd from San Jose in order for the Sharks to move up 3 spots. I'd like to think KD at least asked to try and move up. I would expect him to, right? He's been very aggressive his entire time as GM and particularly this offseason. But how about that? San Jose moves up to number 11. I think it's either to get Berkeley Catton if he falls out of the top 10. It's either to get Cole Yzerman or it's to get one of the top D prospects that wind up falling. Very interesting trade that also kind of shaked up things in my top 15. I'm going to go with San Jose taking Cole Yzerman at number 11, but I wouldn't be surprised if they also take a swing on one of the D-men that could fall out of the top 10. They have Celebrini first overall, but man, if they could come away with Celebrini and Yzerman 1 year ago, people thought that was the 1-2 punch. So they could come away with both of them. I know there's concerns about Yzerman, but that would be crazy to me. So I have Yzerman going to San Jose now at number 11. At number 12, the Philadelphia Flyers, they took Matvei Michkov at 7 last year. I have this guy falling all the way to number 12 because if he doesn't go third, I think he is a candidate to possibly fall out of the top 10. And maybe this is the guy, if he does fall out of the top 10, I know the odds don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world for Anton Salayev to fall out of the top 10. San Jose could be thinking about him ultimately at number 11. If he doesn't go there, the Flyers took Matvei Michkov out of Russia last year. I think this would be a natural pairing to take Salayev at number 12. 13th, the Minnesota Wild. It sounds like they're wanting to take a defenseman. I think Carter Yakimchuk is definitely the best one available at 13. Buffalo at number 14, 3 spots back now. I have them taking Konsta Helenius, who they very well could have been targeting at number 11. I think that's still a very good pick for them at 14 if they were considering him at 11. 15, Detroit, I have them taking Michael Brandstad-Nygaard. I think the Swedish connection is too strong for Steve Yzerman. 16 and 17 are really interesting. We know the Blackhawks are at 18, and if they take Demidov second, I think they're going to want to take a defenseman. However, both St. Louis at 16 and Washington at 17 are looking defensemen, I think, as well. They both have taken a lot of forwards in the first round over the last handful of years. Because of that, I think the Blackhawks may get put in a really tough spot at 18, because I have the Blues taking Sebastian Solberg at 16, and then the Capitals swinging upside and going with Adam Jiricek at number 17. And this puts the Blackhawks in a really weird spot, because I think they want to take D, but it might be a reach for any of the rest of the defensemen who could go in the first round at 18. And ultimately, I expect them to take the best player available and the guy who fits their mold that I'll actually be getting into during segment 3 here today is Jett Luchanko. We've seen him mocked to the Blackhawks twice in the 4 mock drafts that I've covered on the show. I think he makes a lot of sense, and I'll talk more about why that is during segment 3. Number 19, Vegas, they're taking Michael Hage. 20th, New York, I have them taking Sasha Boisvert. 21st, the Los Angeles Kings are taking Trevor Connolly. I think Connolly should go ahead of Luchanko, Hage, and Boisvert, but there are those concerns about his off-ice behaviors, I guess you could say. 22nd, Nashville, I have them taking Cole Beaudoin, who kind of looks like Ryan O'Reilly prodigy. 23rd, Toronto. I think they're going defenseman EJ Emery. I think makes a lot of sense for them there. 24th, Colorado. I have them selecting Igor Chernyshov. I don't think, maybe they're a little more cautious now about taking Russians. Maybe I should have thought that one a little bit more. I could see them also taking this guy who I have going number 25 to Ottawa, Liam Greentree. I think either of those picks could be flip-flopped, and I think Greentree could be an option for the Blackhawks at 18. I know that's not the most popular take out there, but my personal opinion. 26, the Canadians, I think they're going D after taking Beckett Seneca, a forward at 5th. I think they're taking Charlie Elick, 27th, Carolina. I think they're going to take a Swede or a Finn. I ultimately expect them, or a Russian potentially, Igor Shurin. I have them selecting Emil Hemming at this spot. 28, Calgary. I think they're going defenseman if they took Tej Aginla at the 9 spot. I have them selecting Dominic Badinka. 29th, Dallas. I have them taking Ryder Ritchie. I mean, Ryder Ritchie just feels like a Dallas Stars prospect to me. 30th, I think the Rangers could go defenseman. I don't think Henry Muse is going to wind up going in the first round, so I think Leo Saline Valenius could be the pick here. 31st, I have the Anaheim Ducks swinging upside after taking Artem Levshinov 3rd. I have them going with high-scoring forward Tarek Parasak 31st. And then 32nd, to round things out, I have the Philadelphia Flyers after taking Anton Salayev 12th, taking Sam O'Reilly 32nd. There is my full first round 2024 NHL mock draft. Go and let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section on all of that. I would greatly appreciate it. I put a lot of work into this mock draft, and as I just talked about, I'll be having another one come out tomorrow where the Blackhawks take Artem Levshinov. Coming up in just a minute. Don't go anywhere, Blackhawks fans, because I still have to get into Jett Luchanko's 2024 NHL Draft Profile. Back here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Another quick reminder to please go and help your boy out by smashing the like button, commenting down below, and most importantly, subscribing to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. Let's keep boosting those numbers up as I'm on the climb to 2,000 subscribers. And also, make sure to go and check out the new Locked On Sports Today, because Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. So make sure to go and check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and to subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, segment 3, next NHL draft profile that I need to get into here. Since he's been mocked twice to the Blackhawks, his stock has actually been rising pretty highly over the last couple of weeks. I feel like I got to cover him now. I expected him to go a little bit later in the 20s, but I don't want to make the same mistake that I made with Oliver Moore last year. I thought no way in heck Oliver Moore was falling to the Blackhawks at 19. I didn't even cover him because I didn't think it was in the realm of possibilities. I didn't really think that for Luchanko a couple of weeks ago. Now things have changed with the recent rumblings around him, and again, with him being mocked to the Blackhawks twice, and with his profile and the way he plays kind of matching up with what Kyle Davidson has drafted so far in his tenure as general manager. But getting into Luchanko here, he's a 5'11", 180-pound center and is one of the youngest players in this year's draft. On X, I accidentally said he was an 18-year-old forward. No, he's still 17, and he's not going to turn 18 until August. So yeah, absolutely one of the youngest players in this year's draft, only a few weeks away from being part of next year's draft class, and had a really impressive season as a 17-year-old in the OHL. Huge development season from him compared to what he did in his first year in the league. This past season, he had 74 points, 20 goals, and 54 assists in 68 OHL games, over a point per game, but not the craziest numbers in the world. But you have to consider, again, one of the younger players, one of the youngest 17-year-olds in the league, and he also only had 7 points, 2 goals, and 5 assists. Only had 14 points, 5 goals, and 9 assists in 46 OHL games the year prior. So a huge leap in terms of the production for Jett Luchanko. And we also saw him have a rather solid performance for Team Canada at the U18 World Juniors, which has really helped raise his draft stock. Had 7 points, 2 goals, and 5 assists in 7 games for Team Canada. So really effective in that showing. And because of that, a lot of the rankings suggest he's going to be a first round pick. And according to Scott Wheeler, he thinks he's very likely to be a top 20 selection. Luchanko's ranked 34th by Elite Prospects, 19th by Bob McKenzie, 18th by Craig Button, 30th by Tony Ferrari, 21st by McKean's Hockey, 18th by Chris Peters, 36th by Daily Faceoff is his lowest ranking, 24th by Sportsnet, and 29th by Dobber Prospects. As far as the strengths and weaknesses, I talked about Luchanko playing the type of game that Kyle Davidson would like, and I think that's because he plays with a very high motor on both sides of the puck, and he has great skating abilities. And despite not having, the greatest stature, he makes an impact all over the ice. And I would kind of call him like no disrespect, but like a little bit of a diet version to what Frank the Tank Nazar provides out there. He just works hard in all 3 zones, a great back checker, good two-way presence, hounds puck carriers to get the puck back, and then when he does have it, drives possession in the other direction. And I think his best offensive ability is undoubtedly his playmaking, man. His deceptive passes, incredible passes that you don't see a lot of kids make, has great awareness out there. And you can tell he has a high hockey IQ and thinks the game very well. Again, just reads plays very effectively, very efficiently, and seemingly always finds a way to make a slip pass to a wide open player. A lot of beautiful assists if you watch the film out of Jett Luchanko this year. Awareness is very high, and I think he does have an underrated shot. He needs to still develop it a little bit more, but there were a couple beauties that he scored where he absolutely ripped it over the opposing goalie's glove and went bar down. But he can get up and down the ice in a hurry. Someone who I think is going to be a two-way player at the next level. There's a lot of upside there because of his ability, his compete level, and his motor, his offensive abilities. And oh yeah, again, he's not going to turn 18 until, 2 months after the NHL draft. So a lot of reasons to like Luchanko. His stock is on the move. That's why I do expect him to be a first-round pick and in contention for the Blackhawks at number 18. As far as the weaknesses go, I do think he needs to continue to develop that shot, add a little bit more consistency in that area to fully round out his offensive game and to make him a true two-way threat. The biggest thing, though, is he undoubtedly needs to get stronger and needs to fill out that frame. There are some websites that list him at like 170 pounds. Some list him at 180. Either way, he's going to have to get stronger, especially if he wants to play center at the next level. But there's not really a whole heck of a lot of knack on this kid. And I really don't think there's like too much that separates him from being in the top 15 in this year's draft class. So as far as my projection goes, like he has an undeniably high ceiling, and I think he's going to be a good middle six two-way player down the road. I don't know if he's going to be a center, but he's got good skating that'll be able to keep up at the next level, good enough playmaking that's going to make him a good distributor, I believe, in the NHL. And I think there could even be top 6 upside there if he properly develops over these next couple of years. Luchanko's grown on me over the last couple of weeks, and sounds like he's growing on a lot of NHL scouts as well. So feels like he's going to be a top 20 pick. I think at the worst, a top 25 selection. I had him ranked 24th in my 2024 NHL draft rankings, but has all the tools to be a very intriguing prospect for a lot of teams in the back half of the first round. As far as a long-term fit with the Blackhawks, like I outlined, I think he's the exact type of Frank Nazar, Oliver Moore type of player that Kyle Davidson likes to draft. My only problem and my only reason why I think they could go with a Liam Greentree possibly at number 18 is because I wonder how long Kyle Davidson is going to draft that exact same style of player, particularly when the Blackhawks already have a lot of that, especially with not elite offensive abilities in their forward group in the prospect pool already. I feel like they could use some different types of guys, and that's why I think maybe Dean Letourneau could be an option if he makes it there at 34. Why I think a guy with size, who, yes, I understand lacks top-level speed like Liam Greentree, could be intriguing to this forward group, because outside of Colton Dach, they really don't have like any true NHLers who have size along with their skill. That's my only concern about taking a player like Jett Luchanko at number 18. However, if Kyle Davidson sticks to his guns, I think Jett Luchanko makes a lot of sense. That's why he's been mocked there in a couple of different mock drafts. That's why I had him mocked there at number 18. He fits the bill. I just wonder if Kyle Davidson is going to deviate from that finally this year in the first round for the first time as the Blackhawks general manager. Go and let me know your thoughts on that matter in the comment section down below. But that's going to take care of Jett Luchanko's 2024 NHL Draft Profile and today's episode of Locked On Blackhawks. As always, thank you all again for joining me on the show. Please be sure to go and follow Locked On Blackhawks for free wherever you may be listening to your podcast, and to go and subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. Even if you're someone who regularly tunes in through an audio platform, help your boy out. I'm really trying to grow the show right now. Go and subscribe to Locked On Blackhawks on YouTube. 100% free, won't cost you anything, and really does go a long way for yours truly. You can find me on X at Jack Bushman 2. I'll be live tweeting all throughout the NHL draft. We'll be having live coverage, and check out my Strictly Blackhawks account as well at Talkin' Hockey for all the latest Blackhawks news and updates. So until tomorrow's episode, everyone, have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. I'll see you next time on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.